Okay, call the Bucyrus City Joint Regular Committee meeting to order. On to order at 6:01 p.m. Members present, myself, Kevin Myers, James Mead, Bruce is absent, Candy is absent, Doug Boat, and Lisa also. Okay. Bucyrus Joint Regular Committee meetings was called to order by myself at 6:01. Okay, before we do public participation, anybody that wants to talk about issue that most of you are here for on the sanctuary city, we'd like you to wait till we come to the Health and Safety Committee so we can get the other committees out of the way. If you have anything else that you'd like to talk about, please come to the podium and state your name and address.
My name is Vicki Deshawn, and I live at 1108 Hillcrest Drive. I just have a question. Since Bruce is absent and Candace is absent, they are, if I remember correctly, they're part of the ad hoc committee on council rules of procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are your plans?
Well, I just finalized them by text message while you were walking up there. We are going to meet Tuesday at 5 p.m. here.
So we're not having the meeting tonight?
No, I mean, it would be pointless too because it's not fair to try to start deliberating about them here. So we'll just do it next Tuesday at 5.
Next Tuesday at 5,
Yes.
which I can't be here for that. And you know I have quite a few issues.
I'd be happy to sit down with you between now and then and go through them with you if that helps.
Okay, we'll talk about that because I have to leave for Indiana on Monday, and I will be back on Thursday. There's no way you can do Thursday. I know I might be asking a lot, but
I haven't. She's out of town, so I was just texting with her. Are you going to be here the
so
whole
I
meeting?
won't hold these people up.
Are you going to be here the whole meeting?
Yes,
Let's
I
talk
I
after
am
the
going to
meeting.
stay.
Let's talk after the meeting. But as of right now, Tuesday at 5 is the plan.
Okay, but if you could check and see if possibly that could be done on
We can look
Thursday.
into it.
Okay, great, appreciate it.
Gary Miller in the Roger Street. I just have a question like on procedure. At a regular council meeting, you know, in the beginning, you ask for public comment, correct? Are they allowed to address you and question you what we had happen Tuesday? Or is that not allowed?
Yeah, they're allowed.
They're allowed to question you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just saying, let's hold our comments to the issue for the sanctuary city.
Right, I realize that. I thought,
I think he's pertaining to the fact of asking personal questions.
right,
Oh, no, no, I didn't.
you're
do
not
that.
allowed to do that.
No, I didn't.
They're just here to make a statement, right? Okay, so what about this meeting here? Are you allowed to have a back and forth with this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to.
Oh, yes, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else. Okay. I can keep up quiet. All right, Platting Committee will be called to order at 6:05. Okay, rezoning request for 1725 Hopley Ave. I think we have somebody from our zoning office who would like to address us.
My name's Brandon Hill, I'm the zoning administrator for the city of Bucyrus. Like Mr. McKeever indicated, we have received a zoning amendment application for zoning reclassification for 1725 Hopley Avenue, which is the location of Ohio Mutual Insurance Group. You should have my presentation that was given to the planning commission, as well as what Doug just held up there, a site plan for what they're proposing and the reason behind the request. As you can see, the area of the request there is on Hopley Avenue, kind of in that Beale-Hopley intersection area. You see the current zoning as it stands is residential estate. So Ohio Mutual, as well as the two churches out there, are what we call legal non-conforming uses. They were established prior to the zoning code being enacted, so they're able to continue as such going forward. However, what Ohio Mutual is proposing is an additional accessory structure. Our code does have a provision that allows for non-conforming uses to expand at a 50% rate of what their current floor area is, provided that it stays within the development standards of the zoning district in which they're located. However, we do not have a provision that allows for expansion in terms of like accessory structures or things of that nature. So in order to accomplish what they want to accomplish, they are requesting this zoning change to go from that residential estate district to a general business classification. There are two proposed zoning pages there, and you should see the first one, which would simply be what is strictly based on Ohio Mutual's request. That would include basically their entire property there in between Hopley all the way down to Beal. In looking at the request, I kind of saw an opportunity to be proactive. There are two churches, like I said, one First Alliance to the south of them, and Woodlawn to the northwest of them. And if they would ever want to expand in a nature like this, add an accessory structure, add a whatever it may be, a pavilion, whatever you want to call it, they would be facing the same situation. So being that we have 3 established businesses, for lack of a better word there, that have been there for a long period of time, and we don't see much that's going, there's not going to be much in terms of development that's going to really affect the characteristics of that neighborhood outside of what they already are. I reached out to both of the church's pastors, said, hey, I see an opportunity here in case you guys ever did want to do anything like that, to kind of lump them in with this request. So that second option 2 proposed rezone you see there would include both of those churches as well.
They were both on board?
Yeah. What I would like to add on that note is, if we get to the public hearing portion of this, and we get any negative feedback, I think it would be best to kind of do away with that option and just let Ohio Mutual go on their own merits of their application, so not to, detract from what they're trying to accomplish. But I would like to move this forward with kind of both of these options in front of the public for the public hearing, see what kind of feedback we get, and go from there. Marcella is here from Ohio Mutual, and I'm not sure if the engineer was able to make it with the weather or not. She could probably speak more onto, the particular use that they're looking for this new accessory structure. But that's it at kind of a high level look, if anybody has
So
any
if
questions.
we're going to go with option 2, will the homes that are Lakewood Division, those homes will all be notified also?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to notify as if we're going with option 2, so.
That's what I was wondering.
The notification protocol is 200, any property owner within 200 feet of that boundary would be notified by letter. I'll go out, I'll post signs a couple weeks in advance saying that we're gonna have a public hearing for reclassification. I'll put it on the engineering and zoning Facebook page, all that type of stuff, so we should be able to get the word out there pretty successfully.
Okay, Doug?
No. He prepared it very well, like always.
Jim? Okay. Can I entertain a proposal to have a public hearing?
I will make that.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I think you may have a question.
Yes. Candy.
That's Lisa.
Lisa.
My name is Wanda Sherrick, and I live at 1485 Oak Ridge Drive, Bucyrus, Ohio, which is more than 200 feet from what's being proposed. But I'm hoping that the city looks into the water problem that we have all along that area. Our backyards are lakes all summer, and it was into July last year before I did not have a lake in my backyard. And the city really needs to start addressing the drainage in that area. Has nothing to do with Ohio Mutual, but we're real close, and we need some help out here. Thank you.
Is any other
Is that across from Ohio Mutual, across the road from Ohio Mutual? Is that?
We're towards town from Ohio Mutual. My backyard goes into the empty field beyond Beale Avenue,
Okay.
and our whole area is flooded it was flooded all winter now too. I can't go from my house to my garage.
She's off of Whetstone and off Lakeway.
It really needs the city's attention.
Well, we weren't gonna be in that area.
Out that way, so we moving towards that area?
Well, the times we're in Atlanta.
I'm one of the insurance agents.
Yeah. You better.
I thought it was on the exactly.
And then we can take a look at it and see.
Your engineers here, you'd like to, once you come up, both of you come up and explain.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening. So many of you are aware that this past year, Ohio Mutual renovated our interior. We invested $7 million so that we could continue to expand our workforce right here in Bucyrus. One of our goals, in addition to expanding the workforce, was to have a wellness fitness center for our current employees and for attracting new young talent to the area, because this is something that the data shows that is very important to young folks as they come out of college or start new careers. Well, because of the amount of people that we had to fit into our current structure, we weren't able to do that. So our building is 44,000 square feet. We want to build a 3,200 square foot new building next to what you might consider a garage on site. So it's the same height as that. It won't obstruct any views. We will not be adding anything to the parking lot. It's strictly a space for our employees' well-being. Do you want to add anything, Kai?
I think that would be it. We just asked for your support in amending the zoning for this site, and I think for a few of the neighbors to allow the property owners to construct new buildings or new structures on their property so that those would be considered permitted uses. Thanks very much.
I just got one quick question.
Yes.
Same construction as the current facility, as far as the overall outside look of it and everything, brick structure?
Yes, the same as the garage type structure, yes.
It would be metal siding, so that annex building, same to the annex building.
Okay.
Jim? So this is gonna be a garage? Or are you gonna add jobs?
Gym.
It's a gym for
It's a
them.
gym.
Oh,
A fitness
it's a
gym.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fitness center, yeah.
Wow.
They're trying to keep the people they got alive.
I like that.
Okay.
I got a question for the plan. With the zoning for a structure that's non-conforming, if that structure was to burn down, like let's say what the church burned down out there, they're not able to rebuild that church right now.
There is a provision that allows for non-conforming uses that are destroyed by an act of God or a public enemy to be reconstructed, provided that the footprint doesn't change. It wasn't originally encroaching on any of the neighboring properties, and it has to be commenced within 6 months and finished within a year.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion to have a public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. There's no other discussion.
Set a hearing?
Huh?
Set a hearing date?
Yeah, well, that's what we got. Let's get the motion passed and then we'll set the date. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those opposed, same sign. Okay, the date would need to be somewhere between the 10th, the 11th, and 12th of March would be past the 30 days of public notification. So what day looks good for?
You two pick it and let me know. I'm flexible.
Anytime after 3.
Well, yeah, we usually try to do around 6, so How's Tuesday the 10th? Yeah.
March 10th. I'm good with that. You all right with that, Jim?
What was the date?
March 10th?
March 10th? Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, March 10th.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your investment in our community.
Next order of business is easement for Finley Hill. Do you believe we need to talk to Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it's part of our bicentennial celebration. A former resident has undertaken a project. Many people don't know that the city of Bucyrus has a connection to Johnny Appleseed. And many trees planted by Johnny Appleseed. The last one that was living in Bucyrus died years ago. It was almost called Finley Hill, which you may know is where the Arby's is today. You have a picture in your packet of a design that's been proposed to celebrate that connection with Johnny Appleseed as well as our bicentennial on Finley Hill, and we would be planting some apple trees that are actually grafted from Johnny Appleseed stock. You can actually buy those today. And as well as a design for a fabricated apple. I'm not sure exactly what the fabricated material is, but as you can see by the pictures, it's got a very nice, I'll just kind of show it up there to everybody. It's got a very nice landscape design, and the owner of that property has graciously allowed us to plant that there. And will be a historical marker. He's already allowed us to plant the first tree for Arbor Day celebration too. So it's going to really be nice there, and the intention is eventually to do more of these as we raise more money for those. So it's a very cool design, and what we need to get is an easement, because it would actually become city property and we will be taking care of it. So we will have insurance on it. And, so that's what we're asking for. Is the
I don't have any questions. I had this presentation given to me by the person who's doing this, so I know the whole spiel behind everything. This she gave it to our form. This has been about a year in the making.
No, it sounds good.
It's supposed to be, from what I understood from the person that's in charge of kind of heading it up, it's to tie the Johnny Appleseed Trail together with other communities as well, and allow for tourism to happen, and go to these areas where these apples are at and take pictures and kind of go along the trail, and so that's kind of what the idea is.
It's been in this planning for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's about ready to come to fruition as soon as we get the signed agreement with the owner of the property.
Motion, Mark?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, hold on.
I don't know how many people know, but there were Johnny Appleseed trees on that site.
Right.
So that's why that was selected. And there is a perpetual fund for it for maintenance, isn't there?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
There's a fund
that there
for
won't be any
maintenance.
tax dollars used
That's right, no
to
tax dollars will
maintain
be
it.
used. Right. It's all donated money. We have the funds already for this. So.
Right.
There's no other questions. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
It has to be. You're not on.
I know, Doc.
I did that a couple of meetings ago.
It happens. Okay. There's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passed. Okay.
Mr. Chair, the
Yes.
previous item on the rezone, we also need a motion and a second and a voice vote to request a draft legislation on that rezone.
Oh. Okay, I do need motion for draft legislation on that motion for public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, if there's nothing else, I will adjourn platting at 6:21. Public hearings
buildings.
Doug?
No quorum.
Can you call to order, because I know we can't take a vote on anything, but can we please call it to order, because we have some people here that could answer questions? That means you, the chair.
You're. Okay. We'll call public plans and buildings to order at 6:22.
We won't talk about the easement there, because we cannot make a motion on that. But it's been in the works for, I don't know, at least a year or so, for city parking lot number 2, which is commonly known as the Baker's parking lot. And we were approached by the Baker and Smith family that they would like to expand their business. And they draw a lot of people into town, and we're able to buy the property across the street and next door. And they have some really big plans for that area. It brings a lot of tax dollars into the city. And we would like to see that parking, we've had the parking lot appraised, and we'd like to see that parking lot be able to go for the expansion of the business. I know the Smiths are here tonight. They maybe, if you have any questions, I know you had some plan there with you also, that in case anybody has any questions. It has to, since we don't have a quorum tonight, we'll have to bring it back up in 2 weeks for an actual vote. But I thought since you are here, we would make you come back in 2 weeks if anybody has any questions. Is that okay, Mr. Chair? The idea is we want to be able to turn it over to the CIC, the Community Improvement, similar to what we did with McFarland's, and if everybody can see what a big improvement that was. And if we can make this parking lot go to good use and create some tax dollars for the city.
I guess the only question I've got, can we elaborate possibly on what the plan is with the expansion at this time?
There you go.
So you don't have these plans, Jeff? Or no?
I don't have a copy of it,
Can I bring this out? Apologize for the, we have to do this thing, so you can see. Here's our current building. Review it on here. Yep. Okay, and then, should I step up to the mic?
Oh, so yeah, if you want to step up to the mic and I'll hold this up for you, and that way we can kind of help each other out.
Just for the record, I guess my name's Ron Smith. I'm Breck Baker's brother-in-law. We've been talking, Mayor, with Breck, my brother-in-law, about this person for some time. I'm a part owner. My wife's here, Connie, that's Breck's sister. Right now, here's our building, Baker's Pizza Building. The lot in question is this one right here, kind of a narrow lot that everyone has always used for Baker's. It's always been, though, a city parking lot. So, we recently purchased this lot, which used to be the old diner, and we, as everyone knows, we tore that down. We're gonna make that into parking. We're gonna pave that later this year. Right now, it's just stones. So it'll increase all the parking there. We're gonna create another lane there so we can get parking on both sides in that former diner area. We will also then be able to, once we own this, we want to greatly increase the wheelchair accessibility to our building. Right now, it's kind of difficult because if someone pulls a car up to our side door, you really can't get in there with a wheelchair. So we would envision blocking this particular space off from all cars. Maybe put a couple of concrete bumpers there or something, so wheelchairs can get right through there. The big thing that we are excited about is at the very front here of the building, adjacent to Sandusky Avenue, we want to put an outdoor seating facility for outdoor venue. In other words, if someone wants to come out here and sit on a nice summer evening, we'll have waitresses out there taking care of them. We envision fencing this off so that there's no one can get in and out without going into our building, and then we'll have an egress door, which will probably what we kind of think is maybe a garage door type thing with windows. It'll open up in the summer and we can walk out there, or
There may be a door here, we haven't gotten it all worked out yet, how they'll come and go through there. But that's kind of the plan for that. So in a nutshell, that's what we're looking to do. So if anyone has any questions, I can try to answer them.
Ron, what's your time frame for this?
It depends, I guess, on when we would obviously make the deal with you folks. And then, we'll have to comply with all local codes and regulations, that kind of thing, which we fully intend to do. Thank you. And then we'd
Would
like
this
to
be
do
something
that
that
as quickly as we possibly can.
Would you think like this year, I think in 2020?
I would certainly hope so.
Okay. That's good. I mean, if you go to other cities, outdoor dining is huge. Even in Ohio, which you basically have, 4 months or so to do of it. People love outdoor dining. It would be a great addition. And like I say, it's going to put that parking lot, which, hasn't really given in any revenue. Now we'll be able to, see some revenue.
Yeah, and, we'll be able to take this off of your hands as well as far as maintaining it. So the city will no longer spending tax dollars to pave it and, fix the potholes and all that. That will become our cost. So I think it's a win-win for everybody on this.
I just want to make a comment. Previously, this has been talked about multiple times, and it always had come down to, well, that Bucyrus Diner was still there, and we don't want to cut them off from parking. But now that the Bucyrus Diner is gone, the dynamics have changed. The parking lot really doesn't serve any other business other than bakers right now, and the city's paying maintenance on it, they're plowing it, and it sounds like they're gonna have significant economic development from acquiring that lot, so I'm in favor of it.
Mr. Chairman, and the money we would receive from this would go to something we struggle having enough money for, is repairing our other city parking lots. So that's the intention. The CIC then would return to the city, the general fund, and we would fix up some of our other parking lots, which are, some of them are pretty desperate.
I was shaking my head, I'm sorry.
We
It
felt-
doesn't go in the general fund, it goes into a property improvement fund.
That's what I said.
So it can't be. That's right, that's right.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody out here got any questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for what you guys do for our community as well, too.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. Thank everybody.
Free pizza for everybody.
All right, I guess that'll be it for public lands, so we'll end at 6:28.
Well, can't really do too much. Gotta skip material bids because we gotta wait for service committee. Okay. I call finance to order at 6:29. And skip over material bids because we have to wait for service committee. Go right to the enterprise fund reimbursements. Joyce, I ask your assistance.
Okay. There is a copy of last year's legislation attached to your sheet, and then a copy of my memo regarding the enterprise fund reimbursements. And for our new members who, and for the audience, I guess, who maybe don't understand how this works, the departments that are listed on this memo, which is council, there's also costs for legal advertising, the mayor's office, my office, the treasurer, and the law director and his clerk. All who work for the enterprise fund, be it writing legislation, fielding questions, handling administrative duties for them. My office, of course, pays all the bills, does payroll, all those types of things. So I go through those budgets or actual expenses from in this case 2019. And pull-out expenses, for instance, I did not include our new computer system. The enterprise funds need to get their own systems, and I'm not gonna charge them for part of mine. So that came out of what I'm asking from those funds. But we put that total in, then we have a percentage next to that, which we figure probably 3/4 of what we do is for the enterprise funds. So everything's at 75% except for the mayor, who's at 50%, because the other 50% for him, I believe, is basically general fund functions, administrative functions. So we take 75% and consider that, or the 50%, consider that a reimbursable expense. So those expenses are in the third column there. We total that up, multiply it by 20%, and then we take 20% of that total from each of the enterprise funds, which is water, sewer, solid waste, and stormwater. So for this year, that total is $74,870.03. That's a one-time expense to those funds for the year. So I'm just asking that that be approved, and this is also, I will say, required because the state auditor's office expects to see this every year. They say we have to charge from these departments what we do for the enterprise funds. So this is something that predates me, and we do this every year. So I hope that's a good enough explanation.
Yes. Move to request legislation approving the enterprise fund reimbursements.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's no other discussion or questions? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. With that, it's a short night for you, James.
Yes.
I will adjourn at 6:33.
All right, we're gonna call health and safety to order at 6:33. Mr. President, you'd asked to swap the order of these, place the EMS service update first, so we're gonna do that. And then we'll get the second amendment information. Do you wanna kind of take over here?
So we had a Central Joint Ambulance District meeting last month that Kevin and I were both in attendance, and it was discussed amongst the board members that they are anticipating a doubling or possibly tripling of the ambulance subsidy, that the whole district pays their private provider. And a lot of the townships even said they could maybe afford the doubling, but the tripling, they're talking about putting potentially a district-wide levy on the ballot. I don't know if it'd be this November, but possibly, but it'd have to be in by sometime next year when the contract's up. So the city of Bucyrus pays $100,000 right now, and
Next year, I'll go up to 121,000.
And that just, if they put the ballot levy on, the city has no control of that money. It would be taxed to our residents, and we have no control over it at all. So,
If I could, as the law director mentioned, and I know Lisa and Jim, for you guys being newer, to try to bring you up to speed, the ambulance district, and there's in your packet some history that you can read up on. The ambulance district was formed as a way for the townships in the city to work together to have equal and fair representation and equal payment. The company that was doing the service prior to the district being formed was billing one township an astronomically high number, and another one, and there was no rhyme or reason to it. That's what caused the district to be formed. And like I said, there's a lot of history in your packet. But as the law director pointed out to us at a a couple months ago. The state of Ohio Revised Code would require us to state that we're leaving the district prior to the end of the year, and then that actually would become effective the January following. So just as, for instance, if we voted today to leave the district, we're still in it until December 31st of this year. And so what Mr. President's alluding to is that if they put a levy on the ballot, and we decide that's what we don't want to be a part of, we would have to leave the district prior to that time to avoid being part of that, essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors to consider here. This is probably one of the most, staying in this district is probably going to be one of the most important decisions that this council of the next 2 years would ever make, because it's going to affect not only the city, but of course it's going to affect the townships. There's already one of the townships that are in that district, they were looking at getting out and forming their own ambulance service. I think that was Jefferson Township. So one of the things that's been an issue lately is the staffing at the fire department has been lower than it's been probably in the last 15 years. And if the city of Bucyrus was to take on an ambulance service through its fire department, we would be able to get our staffing back up. And considering that the $300,000 potential that we would pay, that would hire 3 firefighters. Plus we're going to end up paying one way or another for this ambulance service, because if the ambulance district puts a levy on, we're going to be paying, whether it's from this council imposing something or the ambulance district imposing something through a tax levy. So no decision needs to be made in the foreseeable future, but it just, this information needs to get out there so that the public can absorb it and start really thinking about how the future of what they want for ambulance service in this area is. Because we don't want to get to like before, where it's always come down to a last minute decision, and we've had to, only had like a week or two to decide, are we staying or are we leaving? And there are some advantages to the city having its own ambulance service, in addition to the township still having some kind of ambulance service. Because right now, if the private provider, if they left, everybody's sitting high and dry right now. Not saying that they're leaving, I think they're a very stable company, but one advantage that the townships would benefit from if we had our own ambulance service, they could still contract with a private provider, maybe just only on a 1 truck situation, but we would kind of be a backup to them if that other provider was to up and leave. I mean, we couldn't forever we would have 2 trucks if we did it.
So how much is the increase going to be?
Unfortunately, we don't know that, because the way that the Ohio Revised Code is for an ambulance district, you could do a 3-year bid, and then there's a provision that allows 1 3-year automatic renewal if all parties agree, but they've already stated that they're financially not meeting their goals, so they've already said they would need to raise their subsidies, so that would force the ambulance district to put it back out to bid. There are about 95 private ambulance companies in the state of Ohio. This was the only one that submitted a bid this time. They are the largest private company in the state. So if they decide they weren't mutually agreeable to renewing that 1 3-year automatic renewal, the district would be forced to put it back out to bid again, where they and the other 93 companies in the state would then submit another bid based on the dollar amount they felt that it would take to be subsidized.
This would be added to the property tax?
That's what they're discussing right now.
So we need to consider if they're putting a property tax on, what is that property tax gonna impose on our citizens? And we need to look at, if we put the same property tax on for the same amount in lieu of us being in there, how much revenue would that bring in that we could potentially have to support the fire department better?
So how much startup costs would be bringing our own?
Well, do you have this?
A lot of that's in that report, and that's all stuff we're actively working on now. Yeah. And there's a lot of numbers in there now. That's about a year old data. That's pretty relevant as far as the numbers go.
I mean, whatever we end up doing, we need to be really involved with the ambulance district, because if they are in a situation where we're not in, they're gonna still want to contract with a private provider possibly, and I'm sure they're still gonna want to rent the building from us down there, because actually that company is doing more than just 911s. They're doing private transports from hospital to hospital. And there was another private company over in Gallion that went out of business. So there's a need for them to be in this area still, whether they're doing 911s or not.
I got questions if I want to speak.
Yes, just give us your name and address, please.
Henry Howell, I live at 531 South Walnut. I got a question pertaining to the ambulances. How many ambulances Portsmouth Ambulance have currently?
So the contract stipulates that they have to maintain 3 ambulances at a minimum, all paramedic level. One of those 3 can be used to do private transports. The other 2 need to be used for 911s. Now, they've added some more. They're not subject to let the district know exactly what they have, where and when. They just have to meet those minimum guidelines. I do know that they put some extra, what's called basic life support, non-paramedic ambulances on during the daytime, and I think they're trying to, add a couple 24-hour shift ones as well. So I think they're above what the minimum requirement is right now.
The reason I'm asking is if we only went to 2 ambulances, are you sure that would cover the city and the surrounding townships?
Well, if we did that, we would not be responsible for the surrounding townships. We're just talking about ourselves.
Okay, I didn't understand, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's why we want you to ask questions. Yeah.
All right, thank you, that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to follow up with that. So if we just provided EMS service in the city, we would most likely have 2 ambulances, and Central Joint Ambulance District would most likely have 1, and we could still, because there's times in the city where there's more than 2 911 calls at the same time. We could potentially they could potentially provide us that 3rd ambulance by that 1 that they would have, and we could potentially, it'd be like a mutual aid situation. And then, because there's going to be times out in town where there's more than 1 911 call at the same time, and we'll have an ambulance available, and we would offer that in a mutual exchange situation.
Okay. So really, I think we just wanted to
So
break
the whole area would still be covered by potentially 3 ambulances.
It'd basically be a mutual aid process.
And you could almost make an argument that we would have 3 dedicated 911 ambulances between this area, whereas right now we have 3, but they're allowed to use the 3rd one in a private transport situation. So you could almost make the argument that we would have more.
It'd be better technically.
Yeah. And this is stuff that over the next several months we're going to take a look at. And we've been, I'm sorry?
We'd be employing more people. We'd obviously have to employ some firemen.
Yeah. But the council president and myself have met with the administration. We're going to continue to meet and do some research and put together some proposals, put together some numbers. And so we'll have information to bring back to you here within the next weeks to months. I think the main thing was he wanted to let everybody know about the proposal that they want to do a levy. Okay. Moving on to the Second Amendment sanctuary city information. Jim and Mark, you have any, I mean, we've heard from both sides, we'll give them a chance to speak again here in a minute. Anything that either of you like to say as we kick this off?
Just waiting to hear from the people.
I'm with those.
If anybody wishes to address us, again, we're going to ask you to step to the podium, give us your name and address.
Hello, my name is Brandy Lupton. I live at 322 West Urban. I have spoken in front of council before, but today I came a little bit more prepared. I want to start out by saying what a great country we all have the privilege of calling home. I can stand here today as a free citizen and honestly say I respect the opinion of every individual in this room, and I will listen quietly as all of you state your concerns in front of a publicly elected council. Why, may you ask, that I respect the opinions of those that would disagree with me? Because in 1787, delegates from our standing 13 states had an idea to fix a weakened government system by writing the Constitution of the United States of America, to establish rights for citizens, and to put the power of the government into the hands of the people, and to establish checks and balances to ensure no branch of government had more power than the other. That is exactly what declaring us a sanctuary city will do. It will help remove some of the power of our state government to decide what is best for your citizens that you are entrusted with and what is best for our towns. Among those rights is the right to free speech, to think freely as an American and voice your concerns. I am not here in any way to infringe on those rights, and I encourage everyone in the room to respect the rights of everyone who took the time out of their day to be here this evening, unlike we have seen at prior council meetings. No matter if you agree with what is being said or not, I will say, however, that if you are against upholding the Second Amendment, then you need to be ready to not be allowed to speak with your first. I have heard the argument from the one side of the story that there is not a concern right now as they are not actually coming for our guns. However, many of those same individuals a mere 4 years ago assured me that Donald Trump would never be president. The best way to have a voice is to not react once action has been taken. It is to act before action can be taken. I stand here today using my First Amendment right to speak about the Second Amendment. However, how many more of our amendments are at risk? I understand that Ohio has removed the red flag gun law, but I will emphasize the words "for now." Ohio is not the only state that has considered these laws or has already passed them, and this won't be the last time they do. These laws not only attack our Second Amendment, but the Fourth, that protects us from illegal search and seizure, Fifth, which protects our rights to due process, the Sixth, which gives us the right to face our accuser and obtain witnesses, and the Seventh, which is our right to a trial by jury before being determined guilty. What about the suggested laws would make it illegal for our young men and women unable to attain a firearm for self-defense until the age of 21, however, be allowed to go to war at the age of 18? How would this affect our local youth organizations, many which offer firearm safety training, and further opportunities for those youth to gain knowledgeable skills to be successful in our community and a productive citizen of our city? They have also recently removed other rights from our citizens between the ages of 18 and 21. So at what point do they start attacking the 26th Amendment, which allows citizens over the age of 18 to vote? Will they stop there? Unfortunately, that is a question we cannot answer, and I certainly do not want to find out. Some of these may seem far-fetched, but I am not naive enough to realize that if they are willing to remove 5 of our constitutional rights with one law, just how far-fetched is it to be that they would go after others? And once the Second Amendment is removed, what is to stop them? I will never forget that without armed citizens, July 4th would not be an American holiday. The 13th Amendment to the United States abolishing slavery would not exist. Will further gun laws discourage individuals with mental health issues from seeking further help in fear of what will follow? Will the rights of our veterans who have fought for the freedoms of this nation and others be infringed? This we do not know, and again, I do not want to find out the answer. For the first time in the history of our great nation, we are fighting to defend our rights as free men and women under a unified government where we are supposed to be represented by elected officials that have the best interests of the citizens on the forefront and uphold their sworn duty to defend the Constitution in its whole. I do believe not declaring a sanctuary city will send a clear message that our citizens are defenseless. It will not invite further crime to our city. I will leave you with these quotes today. George Mason, 1788. I asked her, what is a militia? It is to the whole people. To disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them. George Washington, firearms stand next to importance to the Constitution itself. They are America's people liberty teeth and keystone under independence. Richard Henry Lee, to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike how to use them, especially when young. Those who hammer their guns into plows will plow for those who do not. Thomas Jefferson. Those who trade liberty for security have neither. An armed man is a citizen, an unarmed man is a subject. John Adams. I do absolutely believe that the truth in these quotes is why the Second Amendment is the first constitutional right to be at risk, because our government understands that as long as we possess this amendment, they cannot go after any others. Gun control is not about controlling guns. It's about controlling those who use the guns. Assault is not a behavior, it's a device. Or not a device, it's a behavior. That's all.
You said your name was Brandy Lupton, correct?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Lupton, I want to congratulate you. That's probably one of the best things I've heard said. You bring up so many valid points, and so I just want to bring a couple people up to speed, including my committee here, on some of the things I've done in the last 2 days. I called and spoke with our state rep, Weirder McLean, who his office is preparing some information to send over to us to use for review. I also understand that Marion County passed, Morrow County passed a legislation that was worded a little differently that protected more of what you just said, not just the Second Amendment. I would like to get a copy of that for my committee to review. So there's more that I'd like to look into. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not in haste to make a decision tonight because I want to learn more about a little bit broader of a scope, if that makes sense to you. And that's exactly what I had been thinking about. So for you to touch on those, I want to say thank you. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Step to the podium and give me your name and address, please. I know who you are, but they don't all.
My name is Ray Fancow. I live at 1120 Hillcrest Drive, and this lady surely did her homework, and I'm proud of what she said, and I back everything up that she said. But I would add, I read my Bible today. I hope you did as well. There it is, Exodus 2:2. It says, if a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder. Do we need to explain that more? All right, it goes on, chapter 3 says, but if it happens in daylight, the one who killed the thief is guilty of murder. In other words, to kill somebody, breaking into your house during the day when you can see everything is a little bit, killing is a little bit going too far. And she said it all. Our forefathers, there's never been collected in one place so many smart people in one place at one time as the forefathers created the country. And their idea was to give people power and the government not have all the power. So the people have guns, we have the Second Amendment. You take the Second Amendment away and we lose everything else. I don't see it happening any other way. I was going to mention Karl Marx. Karl Marx, who was in Russia and started communism, was a young university guy and rather cool. He got himself into power, and when he was in power, after he was in power, he killed 20 million of his own people. I mean, is that all right? Now then, and if you think something like that can't happen in this country, I think you're truly wrong. Because I remember sitting and listening to Obama's speech, and he said, what we need in this country is a united federal police force just as strong as our military. And the people cheered, they clapped. But what is a national police force. A national police force is the same thing as the SS was in Germany or the Gestapo was in Russia. No scarier words have ever been spoken as far as I'm concerned. That is not socialism, that's just pure downright communism. So, did I help her out any? Yes, sir. Did I back her up any? Yes, okay, I'm done then.
Thank you, Ray.
Good while you're ahead.
And I will say, like I said, we've heard from both sides on this issue. And I appreciate the respect that both sides have shown one another, and I hope we can continue doing that. That in itself, everybody should be applauded for that, because, the fact that we can maintain decorum has been very enlightening, and I appreciate that. But like I said, I want to get some information into the hands of the committee. I want to let them do some research for both sides, the for and against, so that we can make an informed and proper decision.
Henry Howell, 531 South Walnut. I just want to say I appreciate her speech most of all. I was sitting at work today thinking about the constitutional rights were written by the forefathers, just like she said, to sit there to give us the right to power, to protect ourselves and our families and our homes. It's the whole point of the United States of America, is the government for the people, by the people. And like they both stated already, you take away the right to have a firearm, you just disarm them. They can't protect their rights. In my eyes, by taking away the Second Amendment to the Constitution, it's just the first step, taking away the Constitution altogether. So that's about all I have to say. Other than that, I support the second go ahead with the sanctuary city completely. So thank you very much to the two that already spoke before me.
Fighting alcohol, so apologies. Mike Welker, 1330 Cullen Avenue. To my shame, this is the first city council meeting I've been to. So, so I want to thank you guys for doing your service. And I know that that's probably something you guys don't hear quite a lot. And I bet you never thought you'd have to be constitutional and debate constitutional law in City Hall in Bucyrus, Ohio. I'm not much of a theory guy, but I like facts. And what I can tell you is every day in America, 100 people die from gun violence. The average cost of a gun violence related death is $583,000. We could go on and on and on. And my statistics come from every town for gun safety. And the idea that we can say that having reasonable responsibilities and gun control measures with our Second Amendment rights tracks with all our other amendments as well. So I think this idea of having a lawless city proposal that's sweeping around Ohio is, first of all, wasting a lot of your guys' time because it's not constitutionally binding. But I think one thing we can all agree on is that we all think the Constitution is pretty important and a pretty good basis for conducting our society and our society of laws. So I did some reading, and Amendment 14, Section 1, said all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process or law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So then, again, not a constitutional law scholar, not my area of expertise. But either way we want to slice that, I think that's saying that the state can't override any of our laws here, no matter what the State House and the people in Columbus, that they were overtaken by Karl Marx and all of his buddies, then they still, with that in effect, could not take away all our other rights and freedoms. So that's one way to parse it. Another way to parse that is to say that if you guys as Bucyrus want to take away protections that the State House has given me from the threat of random gun violence for me and my family, then you're depriving me of my rights and my freedoms. this. So I don't mean to deride the idea that our rights and freedoms are not important, but guys, the Constitution's okay. It's gonna be okay. And I understand slippery slope arguments help gun manufacturers and help their bottom line, but as a citizen who doesn't have a dime to make for this, who isn't running for office, I don't think this is a smart use of our community's time. I'm glad to see so many people here. Hell, it got me down here to see you guys, so, all right, fair point there. But I can tell you, my road's tore up, our reservoir has problems, there's about 1,000 other things. I would like to see productive time and effort going on and discussed, rather than a lawless city proposal that's not going to help anybody. And oh, by the way, is against what even NRA members are saying that they think of having sensible gun protections. Even Fox News viewers are saying that there should be some sensible gun protections that are gun laws that still protect the Second Amendment rights to have a gun, but have some sensible gun measures to cure this epidemic that's threatening our society, costing us blood and treasure, not theoretical debate points, people's lives and money. So, thanks.
I'm Brandon Layton, 1526 Fairview Avenue, and I was down here at City Council for the first time on Tuesday to speak on this issue. And I heard one comment from the council and then also from the county commissioners that I thought was a good point that I wanted to address here. And I appreciate that we're all here giving our opinions. And I appreciate that you're taking it seriously and looking into it and looking at the measures from the other counties. And I think that is appropriate to do because when we pass this, we want to make sure, or look at it, we want to make sure that the language accurately reflects what we actually mean. That being said, the one statement that I heard was that there is concern that we do not hinder other residents that might potentially want to move here. We don't want to hinder other economic investments into this community by making this kind of a statement. And while it is something to think about, I don't think that should have any kind of deciding factor because this community was not built by people from some other district or some other city. This community was built by us. Our officials were not elected by people from another community. They're elected by us. And we understand where jobs come from, we understand where these things come from, and when we say these are our values, we take that into consideration. And we go to work every day, and we work for people that have built companies here. That's fine, and we'll work for them. And we'll work for them as hard as we can. We'll work for them because we're working for our community and we're working for our families. But we're not working for them so they can come in and change our values and come in and change how we are. You know, we've inherited this community, we've inherited these liberties from generation to generation to generation, and our main goal as, you know, citizens of this community is to preserve the same life that we have had and the same liberties that we've had for the next generation. That's more important than bringing in outside companies to give our children the opportunity to work for people that would destroy their lifestyle and destroy what we all have. And so in no disrespect, I agree that we need to think about, you know, the implications and everything, but I just don't think that's how we should be looking at it. We need to look at it from internally and what our people think about it and preserving the values that we have. And declaring this is not making a law. It's not declaring lawlessness. It's actually reaffirming the law, because the law as stands says that these amendments are actually restrictions on the government, so the government can't make this. So we're just, by sending this out, and as we talked about, it can be included to adjust the language to include all the amendments, and I think it should, because a sanctuary city isn't a sanctuary city for just the Second Amendment, it's a sanctuary city from all amendments. The only thing we're doing is reaffirming the statement that our founding fathers sent to King George. That's it. We're just reaffirming it. And there's nothing controversial or knee-jerk about this at all. We could send this every day, and it'd be perfectly appropriate to remind our government officials that rights are innately endowed and they're not privileges handed out. and they are afforded to every single one of us. It's not something that someone else can take away from us because they might like it better that way. We all have the right to self-determination. So, thank you.
Jeff Price, 1019 Reed Street. I just have real quick, Lisa, I want to thank you because you're in a tough position when you made the motion to do that because there's so many for and so many against, and as a politician, sometimes we forget where we have to stand, and I just wanted to thank you for giving us the opportunity to keep having discussions on this and this kind of.
I think you guys know who I am. Robert Taylor, 411 Plymouth Street.
And we're glad you're here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's start out by saying, these are all from the lobby. Well over 150 signatures. Overall, I've got 435 just right here. There's 10 more out at least for the county. I'm going to touch on a few things. We talked about infringement and our rights. And most of us, we laugh because this is not 1776, right? We don't have to worry about our local government infringing on us. However, our local government infringes on respectable, honorable, tax-paying citizens all the time, and it's happened recently, and I will spell it out right here to show you. When you give the government an inch, they're going to take a mile because they act like they are our rulers. They are not. They work for us.
That's right. We control the government. The government don't control us.
And I will touch on some of the economic points. People were worried about perception of Bucyrus. I work in Columbus daily in construction. I'm a commercial laser. People know what Bucyrus is. They know of the festival. They don't call it the Bratwurst Festival. They call it the Beer Garden Festival. I mean, that's what it is. I understand. It started with Bratwurst, but where we're at today, people come here for the beer gardens and the festival. And now this is an email I sent to most of the council. I misspelled a few email addresses, so there are a few people that did not receive this. And Lisa is kind enough to forward it all for me. In regards to comments made last council meeting about the perception of Bucyrus and concerns for business owners, there literally is only one business that sells Bucyrus bratwurst and maintains it in the name. It's Carly's. That's it. Now, Walmart sells them, they're Johnsonville. Kroger sells them, they're Johnsonville. They might have the Bratwurst name, which is to another point. The government ran the Bratwurst out of business because every time the man tried to change his recipe, he had to jump through 10 hoops to get it approved. He couldn't afford that. And it's not worth the headache. Anybody ever ran a small business, you understand how intrusive the government can be. There's 4 firearm dealers in Bucyrus. Now we're the bratwurst capital of the world. We've got one bratwurst manufacturer, Carly's. We've got 4 firearm dealers. We're concerned about what claiming to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city would do for business. We've got one bratwurst manufacturer, 4 firearm dealers, and I'll name them for you. You got Baker Brothers Sporting Goods. Brad's been here a long time. Brad's a public servant. Brad took an oath to the Constitution. You got Kelly's Paints, which is connected to Hearst Auto Body, out on Route 4. You got Walmart. They sell long rifles, muzzle loaders, ammunition. Then you got a recent addition to a federal firearms license is Castle's Auction. Melissa Stryker owns that business, and that's doing very well, which is good. It's good for our community. And I'll reiterate again. We're worried about perception in business. We've got one bratwurst manufacturer, 4 firearms dealers. There are at least 10 businesses whose main revenue source is either alcohol or revolves around alcohol. And I'll name them, the Crazy Fox, very popular. A lot of people in Columbus know about the Crazy Fox, the history that goes with the Crazy Fox, the mob that ran the Crazy Fox. You know that, and that's good. That's good for tourism. So we don't want to see that go anywhere. The Horseshoe is the oldest bar in Ohio. Now, I don't know the date, but it is the oldest bar in Ohio. A lot of people in Columbus have been to the Horseshoe. They know where it's at. Dillinger's. It's went through some ups and downs. It was the Mad Bull when I was a kid, and it was Club 144. The point I'm making is bratwurst is not what defines Bucyrus, Ohio. If you ever step out of Bucyrus, Ohio, and talk to blue-collar people, you'll understand that. It's beer gardens. Baker's Pizza, Rent's Nest, Ambex, American Legion, the Moose Family Center, Elks. A few of those establishments hold very popular beer gardens during the festival. People don't come to Bucyrus for beer gardens. They come here for the social events to enjoy a good time with friends and family. And last week, Tuesday, I was told that there were some representatives that felt they could not make a decision on this for 12,000 residents. How many registered voters do we have? 3,000 in the city? Anybody know that number?
Not precisely, I don't.
It's more than that, registered. How many people vote? Maybe I'll research it better next time, but 12,000 people aren't voting. We know that much.
Yeah.
So you can't represent 12,000 people on this issue. Why not? We almost had a bike path rammed down our throats with very little notice had it not been for a concerned citizen about the people on the north end who would have been infringed upon by their local government without any prior knowledge. There's a man that lives 2 doors down from me. He's a very honorable and respectable man. He's a concealed carry officer for Delaware County. This man had a pretty bad accident, wrecked his motorcycle. During procedures for being healed for his motorcycle accident, they found out he had cancer on his kidney. Obviously had to remove it. His wife broke her leg in the motorcycle accident, so they were both down and out for a little while. During that time, there was a letter sent out about trees being planted on the tree lawn. The man was obviously rehabbing. He may not even been home from the hospital, but he did not get the chance to respond in time to this letter. So a tree was planted on his tree lawn. He very respectfully sent an email to a council member. And the council member very respectfully and graciously responded. And he explained his plight. I'm partially disabled now, I'm down and out, a bad accident, medical health. I cannot push mow around that tree. I went and bought a new rider. I can't push mow that tree lawn. So it was worked out. The mayor agreed that I will have that tree removed. Well, weeks and weeks go by, the tree is still there. The man calls, and the response was, the mayor had a change of heart. That's an example of local government infringement. And I have a question to pose. I know a man that lives 2 doors down from him. He got that letter as soon as he got home from work. He had a bad day at work. He's probably having an argument with his daughter at the same time. He grabs the letter and immediately makes a phone call to the mayor's office. He leaves the mayor a very abrasive voicemail about not wanting a tree in the front of his house because the neighbor has 4 trees out back, he's got a maple tree out back, and he's getting ready to make a parking lot out front because he's tired of blocking his garage. Guess who didn't get a tree? You. That guy. Why is there a difference? And that speaks to what we're talking about when I said on day 2 that I was here. We are tired of the government acting like we work for you. You represent us. If we're being infringed upon on little things like that in the local government, and we can't get you to represent us to the state, what are we? We're servants. And that's not acceptable. And it speaks to it's the very lowest level of government we have. And here we are. A man's got a tree he can't mow around because the mayor thought he knows best for that man's property that the man pays for. It's unacceptable. And it's got to change. It really does. And it starts here, and it moves to the state, and then it goes to the federal government. Now, will it ever go that big? I don't know. But if we can't do it here, how can we expect to be represented at the state level? We really can't. They'll tax you. They don't care what you say, because everything you say falls on deaf ears, and we're tired of it. Everybody's tired of it. And that's really all I got to say for now, and you guys know you're going to hear from me again.
Seeing nobody else moving to the podium,
You guys this one? I was going to comment. Gary Miller, 800 Rogers Street. I actually had someone wanted me to read your statement, but after the last meeting, I was accused of writing it myself, so I told her I'll pass on that. Real quick, this isn't going to take long. You know, I've heard a lot of compelling arguments from both sides. I've heard some arguments that aren't so compelling. You know, and people keep talking about the Second Amendment, you know, they're going to take our guns. Nobody's going to take your guns, you know, we're not coming for your guns. You might say we are. Somebody brought up Obama. When he was elected, everybody said he's going to take our guns. So gun sales shot up. How many guns were confiscated? I don't think any. Going back to the Second Amendment. I know the Constitution says that right shall not be infringed, but the Supreme Court in the District of Columbia versus Heller, which the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, although the Heller decision adopted the broader individual rights interpretation of the Second Amendment, the court made it clear that the right to possess a gun continues to have a number of significant qualifications or restrictions. This is the Supreme Court, okay? In my opinion, that means that, you know, there can be restrictions put on gun ownership. Maybe you guys don't think so, but according to the Supreme Court, in that ruling, you can. The thing is, you know, this has been going on. This is my 4th meeting I've been to. This has been going back and forth. You know, I've heard that they want to put it on the ballot in November, which means another 10 months of this back and forth. You guys were elected to make these types of decisions. I know I'm not asking you to rush into it, you know, take as much time as you need, but you need to make a decision on it one way or the other. Whether it's for or against, everyone needs to accept it, you know, and that's the way it is. If you guys actually think that it's in the best interest of the city to make this a Second Amendment sanctuary city, put it to council and vote on it and vote it in. If that's what you truly believe. If you do, I'm fine with that. But this, you know, continuing back and forth is doing no good. It's dividing people more than anything. And, you know, we've got enough division in this nation right now. We don't need it to come to the city also. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Gary. To your point, you're correct. We are going to have to make a decision. Because this was referred 2 days ago, like I mentioned earlier, I would like to get some good information in these committee members' hands, and with the hopes that at our next committee meeting, which is in 2 weeks, that we will be able to go one way or the other with it.
JJ Taylor, 538 Southeast Street. I just have a scenario for everybody to think about. People say we don't need guns, we have police officers, correct? They can protect us. For the most part, right? So, if that's the case, how come we need fire extinguishers in our home? We got a fire department. There we go. Not yet. That's all I got to say.
That's gonna go into the he said, she said.
What? The opinion by the one West Charles Street, Bucyrus, Ohio. I wasn't gonna speak, but there's a couple things that I kind of want to set straight. First of all, nobody says we want to take your guns. I know it's, you just think, oh, this is the beginning and they're gonna come and get our guns. No, we just want some sensible gun laws, that's all. I have a gun myself. I got my first one when I was 8 years old. The next thing is, I have given, I'm 70 years old, and I have given more than half my life to the city. It is our plan, or was our plan, to grow old here and probably be buried out at Oakwood Cemetery. I have a son and my grandchildren. They live in what I call the promised land. You know, we send them away to college and then they never come back. And some of the reason that my son has never come back is because of the drug problem that we have here in Bucyrus. But he loves this town. And I hate to say this, but I probably will be leaving this town, and I don't want to. But it's changed. And a lot of our country is changing, but if I'm gonna put up with the way things are, then I guess I want to be closer to where I can watch my innocent little grandchildren try and grow up. But I pray every night that somebody doesn't walk into their school with an automatic weapon and kill them like the Sandy Hook kids. Now, you can say, you can sigh, and you can make fun or whatever you want to do, but that's what is in my heart. I've done everything I can for this community. And I ask you to do, I retired, now it's up to you to do things for the community, and many of you have. And one last thing, the person that kind of brought this all to our community, and I'm not sure if I can pronounce her name correctly, Atkinson, is that it? Is that how you say it?
She's gonna be your next senator.
Well,
Hallelujah.
she's getting a lot of name recognition in this community, not just down on a sign on the side of the old Freddy's building, but wonder why she wants that name recognition, because she's running for office. So she stirred things up and got our little community all at each other's throats. And I guess that's how you win elections now, is you're controversial and hateful and pushy, and all those things. But you can pretty much be done with me. I did what I could for the community, and that's all. Thank you.
Hi, I've been sitting listening to a lot of this stuff going on tonight. As you all know, I was on the city.
Sheriff, if you can give us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Wanda Sheriff. I live at 1485 Oak Creek Drive, Bucyrus, Ohio. And I've lived in Bucyrus most of my life. I ran for city council, and I was elected, and I was on city council until my son became ill. I came to city council to make sure that the city of Bucyrus has safety forces, meaning police and fire department. Our streets are paved. Our water is safe water. That is what a local community needs to look at. They need to be protecting our citizens with thoughts of how we are going to make sure we continue to be able to pave our streets, that we continue to have a full fire department, which I was very upset tonight to hear that it's underfunded, and that we only have 3 people on board at any one time. That is not a safety as far as I'm concerned. So we're all talking about the Second Amendment, which is a constitutional right. No one in our community can take away your constitutional right. But we need to be talking, and this city council needs to be spending time figuring out how we are going to make sure that our fire department, our police department, our streets, our safety forces, and our utilities are where they should be, so that our citizens have the services that the city council is responsible and the city administration is responsible for. Thank you.
Carolyn Shireman, 1065 Eastville Avenue. I'd like to respond to, where'd she go? Oh, well, I'm sorry, she left. Melissa Ackerson is not the one that brought this to Bucyrus. The media brought this to Bucyrus. Congress brought this to Bucyrus, and a red flag brought this to Bucyrus.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to add one thing.
I got the chills over that, Alice.
Great thing out there in Point Hill Crest. The danger of having something like a red flag law on the books is that's passed and that's law. Okay, this decade, it means that. Okay, the next decade, things erode more. To the point where if you have a gun, you are crazy, we can come take it away. I mean, it's a continual erosion. That's why a red flag law is just so dangerous.
Right.
Not much scares me, but that scares me to death.
I'm crazy, and I hate to think somebody can take my gun because they think I'm crazy. I'm serious. That was kind of hard to watch.
Okay, so I. Need your name and address, please.
My name is Deanna Lee Master, and I live at 797 Manchester Drive. I did not prepare a speech, and I did not prepare to get up here, and I guess I want to address some of the things that were said, and thoughts and opinions that were said, and I mean, I guess I kind of want to address the things that I've seen here as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. And I also want to say before I start that this is not a political thing. This is not a conservative liberal thing or a red or blue thing or a Trump. This is not that thing, and it shouldn't ever have come to the point where it is. I am 43 years old. I've lived in this county my whole entire life. I have 2 children and I'm a single mom. I am a teacher, a 5th grade teacher. I have a master's degree. I've taught at Ohio State University. I have taught gun classes, first armed teachers training program at CDI in Dayton. I have shot in several competitions, and I'm a professional shooter, and I travel to do that. And you know, none of those actually qualified me to get up here and feel like I have anything to say actually when I first came, because we have a veteran and we have, you know, people that are supposed to be here that we voted for and trusted to do your job. But I'm starting to see similarities here that I see going on in Congress or you know, and as a teacher, I'm sitting here also where I can sit in the audience and pretty much see who's already got their mind made up here. I can see who's already got their mind made up. And as a teacher, I can also say that when I'm teaching to my students, the ones that are looking at me, that's a teachable moment, and I can see the ones that want to learn something. So I'm also in EMS. I'm a medic on the ambulance service. So I have several viewpoints that I can come to you from. I'll start with the fact that I'm a mother. I'll start with the fact that 3 months ago, my alarm system went off in my house, and I was sleeping with my 5-year-old daughter, and having 8 guns in my house that are all where they need to be, safely away from her, but always prepared. In a matter of seconds, when my alarm went off, I called 911 and had my gun ready for whoever walked up the stairs.
That's right.
I'm the wrong one for anybody with a gun or any criminal to come to and try to make me have to defend myself. But the sad part is that you do have to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. So when my daughter is screaming and crying because she knows there's a reason I have my weapon out pointed at her safe stairway in her home, and the security system is on the other line telling me that my window was open, I know that this wasn't the wind or something that I didn't need to be scared about. And so for a very long moment of time, when I waited for the police to pull up in my driveway, I wasn't thinking about me anymore, which is what I've done for the last, so many years that this nonsense has gotten to the top so bad that we have to even stand here and have this argument. And those of you that say that it's a waste of time, is that the best thing that you can get up here and say against it? Really? That it's a waste of time? Well, if you would do what we want you to do for our protection and our safety and that we voted you for, then there wouldn't be a waste of time because we wouldn't have to sit up here for days and argue about the fact that we should be able to defend ourselves. So not only did that happen, my daughter is now terrified in her own house. Okay? Cops came, I'm alive. My daughter's alive. If somebody would have came in my stairs before they got there, on my stairs, I don't think it's your right to tell me what I could have done to them.
That's right.
I mean, you can all you want, but you're one of the ones that weren't listening to teachable moments. So I don't know, you know, it's just really, maybe I notice things as a teacher that like other people aren't seeing up here, but like some of you get A+, and not because you're gonna agree with me, it's because you're wanting to learn something. You know, you're able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and listen to their viewpoint and try to like actually see where people are coming from, rather than be so against, you know, one thing that you're not willing to listen. And that's the problem in this whole entire country right now. It disgusts me that I'm sitting here in my own county and here I am watching people sign papers and read documents that you've had printed out before the meeting was even here. I'm sure you already know what's on the paper. I'm also going to talk to you as a CCW trainer. I have classes, and as a armed guns trainer, and several classes that I've had, shooting classes, and training classes where I've taught people how to be safe in schools. For whoever who left that doesn't want to hear it and had an opinion though, I'm going to talk about that too. Because my son right now, who is probably, I would say if I had to define it, is a Democrat. And I love him anyway, right? Like, I love him anyway. Like, he's got that. Listen, no, this is my point. He's got valid points as well as I do. And I am not a Democrat. But that's the problem. Another problem in society is we all have valid points. But some people just don't want to hear the other one out. They don't want to take teachable moments. So, my son, he's a straight A student. He's in a program that only a handful of people in the state of Ohio get put in, accepted for. He's going to be coming out of school without ever doing a drug, without ever committing violence, without ever doing anything. But you know what? The one thing that he does believe in and that he does do, he shoots guns. And he's one of the best in Ohio. He's getting looked at for scholarships, for national shooting competitions. Millions of scholarships every year that are given out to kids. Time away from drugs and crime and sex at a young age and early pregnancy and whatever, you know. That's not my son, because my son had one thing that he was great at, and you know what? It was shooting. All the guns that you don't want to, you know, let us have, or who, all those two, you know, those two. So I grew up in Ohio in a state where when I was young, like that was the foundation of our life. We were farmers and we were country girls and we shot guns with our dads and we went out and got our first deer. We protected ourselves in our home. We had a gun. Even when those were the times we didn't lock our doors even. Guess what? This isn't the time where we can't lock our doors anymore. You want to talk about gun safety and Bucyrus, like, oh, if we let them have the guns they want, the crime will go up. And no, if you leave any room to take those away, then all you're doing is making the problem worse in this town by saying, hey, criminals, we're here. We're treating the soon-to-be victims as criminals, and we're just giving you a free pass to go out into the community and do whatever you want.
Right.
Because nobody can protect themselves anymore. And as a teacher, let's talk about my teacher point of view. I think she left, I don't even know who said it. What worried about my grandchildren at school? And I'm a teacher, and I went through probably 20 trainings at school where I have to show little babies how to throw pencil jars towards the door if somebody breaks in. And I'm also a teacher that next year my 5-year-old daughter will be walking in my hallways, in my school building, across the other side. I'm also a teacher that could shoot probably better than anyone in this room, that is confident that I could take out someone if it was to protect all of my children, including my students, but I can't. I can't because it's one of the one places that guns aren't allowed. So my biggest fear is not somebody coming into the building to shoot me. I mean, I have those skills too, and I would go out any second for anybody in my room. Once again, that would be the wrong room to walk into. But my biggest fear is that somebody's gonna come in there and I'm not gonna have anything to defend them.
Yep.
You wanna talk about school shootings and, everybody wants to use these reasons why gun control. Okay, look at all the I can state statistics, I know the Constitution from front to back. So if you say that it stands and it's strong, you're wrong, because the Constitution was broke about 50 times in the impeachment trial that we just went through. And we wasted $43 million for something that got thrown out.
Right.
So you are wrong. And if you want to start stating articles and amendments, I can do that with you too, but I don't really want to go there right
Can
now.
I ask you one question?
Actually, you're here to address us.
Right.
We're not gonna let you guys debate between you. You can do that afterwards in the hall.
I just wondered.
If you look at statistics as far as states with gun laws or states, that the crime, it's proven. Countries, states, it's proven that the crime rate is the highest cities in the world, the ones that have gun laws. I'm sorry, but it is. You can't lie with facts, but a lot of times people don't want to hear facts when they already know it all and don't want that teachable moment. Okay, let's go into, I'm a teacher, so this is what I tell my students when I have, there's a story, right? There's a right side, and there's a wrong side, and then there's always the truth, right? There's 3 sides to every story, okay? So, I'm gonna tell you a story, and I'm gonna treat you like you're my students. And what I always tell my students to make them better teachable moments is that you need to put yourself in the shoes of one of the characters. Put yourself in one of the shoes of the characters. Feel what they feel. Imagine what they're going through. Okay? So I'm going to invite you. You can pick any character you want. You can be the young girl. You can be the soon-to-be husband. You can be the mother. Or you can be the criminal. Right? But I guess none of you will pick the criminal, I'm assuming. I mean, those are the ones you want to give the free pass to just multiply. Okay, but you can be the young girl, the victim, or you can be the mother, or you can be the soon-to-be husband, okay? So just pick one of them and put yourself in their shoes. Because I'm going to ask you a question when I'm done. So imagine a girl that was soon to be married, and her husband got their first house of their own. One night they decided to have a party to celebrate that, and all of their friends in their small town that they lived in their whole entire life were coming over. And in that mix, there was a few other people that just joined in that maybe they didn't know or that came along with other people. And it was a happy moment, and there was a small nightclub in town where everybody danced and celebrated, and that's what they planned to do. They had a house party, and they went to the local club in this small community where they felt safe, where they have the right to protect themselves, where they have police officers to protect them. So all these people come over to their brand new house and they have some drinks. They're all adults. They go to the nightclub. The girl, with some other people, gets offered a drink by somebody in the group, and she drinks it. And not too long after that, she gets very sick. But she only had a Diet Pepsi and one fruity drink shot. So she goes home because she's so sick. She can't even leave with everybody else, and some people that are really concerned take her home. And she walks home and she goes into her bathroom where there's several people still having a party and celebrating this new life and this soon-to-be marriage. And she's throwing up on the toilet, and she knows that something is wrong. And she even mentions, like, maybe I should go to the hospital. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I feel this bad. Party dies down. There's some people left. The husband goes upstairs and goes to sleep because his soon-to-be wife is asleep, by the toilet. A girl that only took one drink. And the girl wakes up being raped. But the girl didn't have a gun. Nobody, the girl thought she was safe in her town with her police officers and all the people she knew. The girl didn't have a gun. So the girl gets raped. The man flees and can't read or write or anything, but he has his father write a letter to the Bucyrus Police Department and say that it was consensual because it was known that they would find evidence. He goes to another state and he disappears for 20 years. Who knows if he raped other women? Who knows if he killed somebody? Who knows? I mean, The husband wakes up to screamings and finds his soon-to-be wife was just raped on his own bathroom floor and he didn't protect her. So not only did it ruin a marriage or any future, the husband later, his whole life went downhill, ended up in prison, ended up on drugs. I mean, how do we know if that's not what caused it? The woman, he didn't kill her. He didn't kill her. But there was many times that she wished he would have. So the mother gets a call from the hospital saying that her daughter's in the hospital and has been raped. And doesn't know if she's okay or not, or if she's still alive. And I'm just wondering, in this situation, whose rights, whose side are you on? Did that girl have the right to kill him with a gun? Did he have the right to go in a house and rape somebody without thinking they have one? Because, my mom didn't have a choice, and my soon-to-be husband didn't have a choice, and I certainly didn't have a choice when I was raped on my own bathroom floor. So if you did your job, and you put yourself in the story, I'm just wondering that if it was your daughter, or your wife, or you were the victim, if you would have wanted the right to have a gun there to protect yourself. And I don't care who says it's a waste of time to be having this meeting. If it's a waste of time, then just vote yes. Because if you vote anything other than yes, it's like saying that he had more rights than I did.
Exactly. Mr. Chairman, knowing that we could potentially have normal legislation go through 3 readings and could be sent back to committee to be amended, I know you said you initially wanted to get some more input on this, but what's your thoughts on potentially having a vote tonight to move this back towards council, knowing that we would have plenty of time to potentially amend it and send it back to the committee members?
I need more information. I agree with what Kevin wanted to do. Give us more information. I'm not siding one way or the other. I need more information, and I'm sorry if you're gonna disagree that we gotta move on it now. I just found out this 2 weeks ago. I've been trying to read the information on this. It's not something I can just dive right in and understand completely. I need to know what this law is saying. I need to know the ramifications of it. I'm not agreeing that the state needs to do the red flag law. I don't.
We're asking you to tell the state that you don't agree with any more legislation. That's all this means.
Robert, let me speak.
Yes, sir,
I'm just saying.
I'm sorry.
I need more information before I make a decision on what the people want. I'm not saying I'm against or for it right now until I get more information. I am not going to, if you want it now, I'm going to vote no. I need more information. I am not making a decision tonight.
Does it need to be unanimous?
Hold on. He has the floor. Are you done? Lisa, you raised your hand.
I had heard him mention earlier about Morrow County. Are all the counties, that's a question I have. All the counties are doing the same thing? I know that
Yes,
there
they
were
are.
several.
I can show you now if you'd like me to. I can show you how many counties have accepted it. There's only 2 that have rejected that out of the whole state of Ohio.
They haven't officially rejected, they're just facing.
I mean the same language.
Oh, okay.
is what I was-
Yeah, and that's one of the things I want to look into as
I'm
well.
sorry, I wasn't clear. I meant the same language. If they were using the same language, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I intend to get answered for us. Somebody else asked a question.
Does the vote need to be unanimous?
So the way, this is in committee now.
Okay.
There are 4 people on every committee. There are 3 people present for this committee tonight. The 3 of us, I'm the
Gotcha.
chairperson. One of the 2 of them would have to put forth a motion, the other would have to second it to send it on to full council.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's the process that the Ohio Revised Code says we have to follow. So that's
Just
where we're
getting the
at.
logistics.
That's fine, no, I'm glad you guys are here to learn, honestly. That's where we're at right now.
I have a question about a local issue. We're gonna get that tree removed that was infringed upon that man's property. Because we're talking about infringement all day long here.
We'll address that later. I want to take care of this committee is health and safety. So,
Hi, my name is Pat Marcus. I live at 729 Ridge Avenue. And my statement was along the lines of, what I would like is the legal implications of this. If it's passed, what makes Bucyrus legally different from every other state, or I'm sorry, every other county, I guess city? Are there any cities that have had this?
Also, we'll be the first.
Okay, so we would be different. What, legally, what does this do from both sides? Please just, there's a lot of emotion on both sides. And what I would like you to determine is the facts and present the facts somehow to the public about what this means legally, what the city can and cannot do if it's passed or if it's not passed. If it's to send a message to Governor DeWine or the state, I think we need to do that individually. There is an avenue to do that. I know with the red flag law, they have hearings at the State House, and you're allowed to go speak, and I forget what it's called, I don't know. You're allowed to go sign up to speak, and you can speak directly to the people, the state representatives that are voting on the laws that you don't like. So I think it would be more effective if you hammered your state representatives that can change things for you instead of locally. If it, I don't know if it does, if this just is a statement as opposed to a law.
yeah, and where this is at, just to, not to interrupt you, but to, again, for educational purposes, one of the things I learned in my phone calls this week, it's in the Senate's Government Oversight Committee right now. If it comes out of committee, the Senate has the opportunity to vote on it, at which point they would send it to the House. That's where all of this is right now at the
What's
state level.
the Second Amendment or the red flag? I don't know.
The governor pulled the red flag portion out.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but the entire thing, there are 3 different Senate bills that are all wrapped up into this. They're all 3 in the Government Oversight Committee of the Senate. And I can't, off the top of my head, tell you which one's which, but one of them had a second hearing on January 21st. The other two have been held to their first hearing on September 11th. That's where those stand right
So
now.
that's, but they're not, it's not addressing this issue, right? The state isn't addressing
No,
this.
this is exactly what has created this issue.
I understand what's
Yeah.
created the issue, but the state isn't addressing whether we can declare ourselves immune. I mean, if we do this, are we declaring ourselves immune from state law?
No, it's not a law.
Okay, so it's just making a citywide statement. Okay, I would encourage you to go down to the state capitol and make your statements, because those are the people that will change laws for you. You can't change state laws for us.
We don't want laws changed, we want, is it about protecting anything?
We want a statement where you guys say that you're gonna uphold the oath that you took when we voted you in. That's it. There's no
Clearly
change
it's
in
in
law
question.
or
Clearly it's in
anything.
question.
And if we always go to the state, what? We go to the state, the federal, like, where is it? Shouldn't it start with our local?
Yes.
Shouldn't it?
Can't even stop from planting trees on your lawn.
We have local, state, and federal
Oh,
government.
if you're going to speak, I'm going to ask you to step to the podium. Otherwise, there's no speaking from your chair. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Deb. Stephanie Serena, 1510 Woodlawn. It's just, reading all this is just frustrating because we have so many issues in this city. So many issues. Where was this group 30, 40 years ago when there was a reservoir issue? Where were these groups of people 30, 40 years ago when the EPA was going to force the city to fix the, whatever it is we're being forced, yes, to do now? Where were these people before? I mean, I'm glad that people are, you know. I'm not, I mean, you know, but, I don't know, like I was speaking with Candy, she's my council person, and it sounds like she's found something, some type of grant that may pay 100% of something that needs fixed out of that reservoir. I mean, that's action. We need action and not, I don't know what this is. This is just fighting over a sexual issue. So, I guess I said my piece, and I'm glad that McKeever said he wants to get more information, you know, instead of just going off of emotion. So thank you.
Randy Lupton, 322 West Irving. I just wanted to add to my point. I am a recent resident of this city. I'm actually a Texas native, and it wasn't until after I got out of the Army that we actually moved here. Guns are in my blood, and I had the privilege of working on one of the most armed helicopters in the world. And with that was defense of freedom. Now, I appreciate everyone's views, no matter which side that's on. Without healthy debates, then only one side would win. However, for all of you coming up here and saying this is a waste of time, if it is, then why are you here? If this is such a waste of time, then why did you take your precious personal time to come up here to state an opinion? Because it is important to all of us. No matter whether you're for or against, it is important to every citizen of this city. Now, I also appreciate the fact that you are wanting to do your homework. I completely understand no decision needs to be made in haste. I challenge you to look at the crime rates of cities who have already adapted gun control laws. I challenge you to maybe set up a poll on the city website with its citizens to see how many sway one direction or the other, or how many are indifferent. Or to go out and talk to your citizens and see what everyone on the street that doesn't have the privilege of being able to come here due to work or children or other obligations have to say. Unfortunately, most of the citizens from our town cannot come to the city council meetings. This is only the second one I've ever been to, and I hope that going further I can come to more as I see need. However, this is the issue that we are here for tonight. And I understand that a lot of citizens do think this is a waste of time, but this is something I feel very strongly about, and I will continue to come to every committee meeting that I can make until this has been decided one way or another.
Wes Pollock, 1355 Edward Drive. I don't have a speech either, obviously, but I won't keep this long-winded, but declaring a Second Amendment sanctuary, city and/or county, is not making it a lawless county or city. They're not saying that you can go out and do whatever you want, have whatever weapons you want. And even then, I mean, a 30-round magazine, if people are worried about that with a Second Amendment sanctuary, you can do a lot more damage with the car than you can with a 30-round magazine. So this is protecting our rights that we have right now. And it's, I mean, I really don't see any negative outcome of it, aside from that you were standing up for our rights that are already in place. What guns we already own, it's not, I think people are overthinking it all. It's not adding or giving guns, or it's just protecting. I think it's getting thought about way too much, so that's all I would say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Max Miller, I live at 1423 Oak Ridge Drive. I know this is health and safety, but on the second one, so earlier, if you look at the backyards, it'd be great if we get a flood back there every week. You know, I'm recently, I've been with my girlfriend 2 years. We've got 2 small kids now. New dad, it's a new role for me. I'm enjoying it. If I'm looking at somewhere I want to go, or we're going to go take vacation, and I'm comparing 2 cities, they might be, you know, similarly sized, similar activities, that sort of thing. I'm probably not going to go to the one that's the Second Amendment sanctuary city, because there might be a lot of good guys with guns. There might also be some bad guys with guns. I am for, if we can get legislation that maybe keeps the guns out of the hands of people that want to do harm. I know there's a lot of, I have friends that are gun owners. I shot guns. I know my parents are the liberal commies, but they actually took me once to take a shotgun. So I'm not against anyone having guns. I think you should be able to defend your family. I think you should be able to defend your property. I think you should have that right. It's in the Constitution. I don't want to take that right from you. I think that, you know, I like all the amendments. I don't like the one where they got rid of alcohol when they brought it back, so that was great. So again, I'm not for the sanctuary city just because it doesn't do anything. Nothing's going to happen because of it. You still have your Second Amendment rights. It doesn't infringe upon that. It's a message. I mean, like Ms. Hargis said, if you want to take it to state legislature, they're the lawmakers. They're the ones that are going to be able to put in what you want to do. I know I'm one of the Tide Pod eating millennial generations. I saw Mr. Brinkhouse comment. That was pretty funny. I think you're a millennial too, though, if I'm not wrong. So
But I'm not eating Tide Pods.
Well, I wouldn't either. I mean, I'm a millennial too, but I guess I've never had one well done. I don't know how they're served. You have to fill me on that one. But just want to let it know that, you know, as working with Kevin on the tourism board, we talk about tourism. You know, I know that these people from Bucyrus, there's kind of a letterman's jacket between us and some of the surrounding communities. Tried to fight that a little bit and realize that, you know, we're all in this together. We're all the same people, cut from the same cloth. You know, we go to work, we come home, we take care of our families. So I don't think, you know, like we said, there's already a lot of division. I want you to be able to keep your guns and keep your family safe, keep your property safe, but I don't think this is necessary for our city. That's all I got.
Thank you, Max.
I just wanted to make a comment to the previous, Mrs. Hargis or Hargis. I do encourage everybody to contact your state representatives, and Reardon McLean has said that he is monitoring these resolutions. There's already been one passed in Morrow County, which is part of his district, and we're part of his district as well. And I think the whole purpose of this, it's to send a stronger message to those state representatives rather than just individually contacting them on an individual to individual basis. And there is a difference. The Morrow County resolution, they did not call it a sanctuary county. They called it a constitutional county. So I know there seems to be a lot of holdup over the word sanctuary with the people that are opposing this. Perhaps that is something that we can change, is that word in it.
That doesn't, no, Constitution doesn't change the meaning, but I understand what you're talking about.
Linda Cooper, shall I want to reiterate what Max said. Nobody's wanting your guns. Nobody wants to take your guns. That's not what any of these laws are about. The red flag law they had thought about putting in was to protect people. I want to tell you a story. A friend of the family. Doesn't live in this county, lives down in the Columbus area. He is a West Point grad, captain in the U.S. Army, 3 tours of Afghanistan, Bronze Star medalist, winner. He came back with injuries, has a wife, 2 beautiful little kids. Came back with injuries, the pain, the anguish, all that got to him. He snapped. He held a gun to his head to where his little tiny wife had to wrestle him to the floor and take it from him in front of his children. That was the first time. Happened again 4 months later. There's no law on the books that says that man is not allowed to have a gun now. He was sent to Florida for 2 months for a treatment. There's no law that says he can't have a gun. My daughter goes to that house and visits. I want my daughter protected. If that means there needs to be a law on the books that says someone like him, we need to take his guns, I want it on the books. For all of us, not just my daughter, for all of us, for his wife, his children, his neighbors. This could happen with your neighbor, your neighbor, your neighbor, your friend. It could happen to any of us. Any of us can snap at any given time. That's what happened to him. Luckily, he had his wife to say, guns are getting out of here. My neighbor lives by himself. What if it was him? Nobody there to say, we're getting guns out of here. That's the things that concern me about the gun laws. That's where I oppose the sanctuary city for this town, because if that law comes up, I want our police department, our sheriff's department to uphold those laws for the protection of all of us. I don't want your guns. There's a boatload of guns at my house. I don't care. I don't care that they're there. They're not mine, but they're there. I don't want anybody's guns. Nobody wants anybody's guns. That's all I got to say.
I understand, but I'm gonna let these people have their chance to speak.
Carolyn Sharman, I want to say something a little bit different. I had a boyfriend, lived in Crestline, Crawford County, perfectly fine, nothing wrong with him. His mom died, made him go berserk. He was perfectly legal to own a gun. But you know what he did instead? He hung himself in his garage. Who was there for him?
Amy Copley, 1111 South Walnut Street. Just to the point of the whole gun violence thing. If I want to hurt myself, kind of like she said, I don't need a gun to do it. If I want to hurt somebody else, anybody, I don't need a gun to do it. I got a car. They sell swords. I can get a butcher knife, razor blade.
BB gun.
I mean, if we're talking about mental,
Football helmet.
Miles Garrett, baby.
it's not a gun issue, it's a people issue. So, I mean, it's just as easy for me to come up here and say, this guy's crazy, and, you know, she might have just been raped. She might have just been raped. And she might be going through her own mental issues. And I might have been the person that raped her. And I say, she's crazy. And they come in and take her gun. And then I come back later after they've taken her gun. Oh, no, she wasn't crazy. But now she can't defend herself either.
True.
So, it's not a gun issue. And the people that have the registered handguns or whatever gun they choose to have in their house, in their home, they're not the ones with the issues mostly that are committing the crimes. It's the ones that have the guns that aren't registered or that were stolen. And I'm sorry, but there's no way to find those people, and you're not gonna get their guns back, sanctuary city or not. They're not gonna give them up. All you're gonna do is take away the guns from the good people, and then all the bad people are gonna have the guns, and then, well, we're all screwed, so.
You're gonna have the murders and trying to.
That's it.
All right, thank you. All right, I will adjourn the health and safety meeting at 8:06 p.m. And because it's on the list, I legally have to ask, is there any public participation? Seeing none, I will ask for a, real quickly, I want to thank all of you for taking your time. You know, all of our time's valuable to us. I get it. Your time's valuable, my time's valuable. I want to thank everybody for coming, whichever side of this, discussion you're on. I can tell everybody's passionate about it. I want to thank you. I'm actually proud to be a Bucyrian right now. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because two sides to this argument, everybody's been respectful of each other. Thank you for that. So now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the joint regular committees. First by Mr. McKeever. Second by Ms. Austin. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned at 8:06 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Here we go after.
Oh,